In this third video in the series on how mindfulness and behavioral change can help manage and combat addictive behavior and addictive thinking, I'll be looking at the work of James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, and offering some ways that habit change can improve our mind and our cravings and our addictive behaviors. So let's get into it. So I came across habit change many years ago and the science and behavioral side of it through Charles Duhigg, who wrote The Power of Habit, and then later, a couple of years later actually, through the work of James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. I heard him again on the Waking Up app, talking to Sam Harris, and numerous interviews recently with Tim Ferriss and other prominent podcasters and authors who I love. And what James did is he really breaks down in a succinct way how habits and the way we behave, the way we think, and especially the way we act can shape our negative behaviors and our positive behaviors. And today I want to look into three key things from his book. I'll be doing a deeper dive later on his actual book and going a bit more into the ins and outs of it. But for now, I wanted to look at the 4 laws of behavior change, the 2-minute rule, and identity-based habits. So let's have a little look into these. So James Clear says that if you can master the first 2 minutes of a habit and get it going, get it in momentum, or get a bad habit to stop working, you can then build on it later. You can make a small habit bigger once the pattern and the behavior is wired in. And that's the same with a negative behavior. If you can break that addictive thinking or that addictive behavior or that procrastination or any undesirable behavior you want in a small chunk at the start with the first 2 minutes, if starting a good one or ending a bad one, you can then expand it at a later point. And how this links to addiction is if we can really hone in on that initial craving, that initial thinking, and almost that initial response, that initial action, and really nail down that initial part, then expanding it to really make huge changes in our life will be much easier, because it's quite overwhelming to see somebody smoking 20 cigarettes a day to go from that to none, or to go from checking your phone every 20 minutes to checking it a couple of times a day. So mastering the 2-minute rule, really nailing down the initial trigger, the initial craving, will really start to break down these habits. And for the 2-minute rule, just knowing about it and knowing that there's some science behind it, that it works, was huge for me to start to pull back and really engage with the initial trigger and the initial craving of negative thinking or going for that cigarette, and stopping and saying, right, if I master the first 2 minutes and just don't act, I'll be in a much better place. And also, if I do act and go and do something else, I will be in a much better place. So yeah, the 2-minute rule, really beneficial. Try and use it. Try and start a good habit with the 2-minute rule. Try and stop a bad habit with the 2-minute rule. So let's have a look at the 4 laws of behavioral change and the key principle behind the whole book. So when it comes to big changes like managing addiction or stopping procrastination or our diet changes or our bad habits, what you're really looking for here is changing your mindset and, to a certain degree, your identity, which we'll go on to in the next video. But really what we would be better off doing is, as James Clear says, focusing on systems, not goals, not relying on the willpower and our just belief that we want to do it, and instead focus on a proven system to break down addictive behavior, break down bad habits, and really start to combat that in a systematic way. And this is why I think the 4 laws of behavioral change have been so beneficial to my life and can really help you as well. So as we spoke about at the beginning of this video, you've got your cue, your craving, your response or your action, and your reward. And the 4 laws of behavioral change sort of map onto these directly. So when it comes to the cue, for a good habit, you want to make it obvious. And for a bad habit, you want to make it invisible. So as we're talking here about negative behaviors, let's take smoking or junk food, make it invisible, make it far away from you. if you have a job and you go there to smoke, maybe leave your tobacco there so you don't have that one in the morning. Maybe put your junk food at the back of the cupboards or at the bottom of the fridge, or so it's not obvious, so it's invisible, so it's hard to attain initially, and that will start to break that. When the cue is there before the craving arises, it's harder. It puts a little blockade in front of getting it immediately. So the second one is, for a good habit, make it easy for the craving, or for a bad habit, make it hard. So for a good habit, say you want to put your trainers by the front door. James will say, make it easy, so it's right there. It's easy to attain. Or make it unattractive. Maybe a good one that I've done in the past is I'll buy the most horrible brand of tobacco that you could possibly buy. So, or what's another thing? Say you love a certain type of chocolate bar or a certain type of crisps, buy a completely different brand. So you're not cutting the behavior out, but you're making it a lot less attractive to you. And I really think that starts that trigger, that craving. It suddenly seems less appetizing. Like you don't want that brand of thing you had, because it's not like, your habits are often linked to really refined things, really specific things. So you might not actually want something that isn't quite what your chemical system and your brain and your mind is craving. So it just breaks that attractiveness down, and it makes it a lot less appealing to you. So the third way would be make it easy, or make it hard if it's for a bad habit. So it's a little bit like make it obvious, make it invisible, but the way you want to make it hard is maybe you have to do something in order to get it. So not just making it invisible out of the way, but like, I only get to have a cigarette if I do this. I only get to have the food if I do that. And then you're making it further away from you, you're making it harder to attain. Or you could, for instance, you could keep different parts of different things in different places. So that is relative to your example. Like, let's take smoking again. It's different if you smoke traditional straights, but if you smoke roll-ups, you could have your filters in one place, your paper in another place, your tobacco in another place. You're making it hard to attain and hard to do, rather than just making it unobvious or unattractive. Okay, so then the fourth thing would be make it unsatisfying. Make it satisfying, as in if you want to start a good habit, reward yourself. If you want to go for a run, then go and do something with your friends afterwards. Go and do something with your partner. Go and watch something on TV. If you want to make it unsatisfying, do the opposite. So what I'm trying to get at here with these 4 rules is you can break an addictive behavior, addictive thinking, negative actions down in these 4 ways, and really start to combat them by seeing that there's a whole process involved with negative behaviors and addictive actions. So now let's have a little look at identity-based habits. So as I've said, the place you want to get to, and I love Tony Robbins's quote on this, is when he says, he asks somebody, like, how long have you not been smoking for? And they say, oh, 7 days. He says, why are you counting? I love that. It's like, you want to be a person who just isn't a smoker anymore. Doesn't matter how long you haven't smoked for, because you're never going back. Or it doesn't matter how long have you not had sugar for. Oh, I just don't eat sugar. You're putting a line in the sand, and you're basically stating that your identity has changed. And I believe that the first 2 points I've discussed are more beneficial for starting out. But as you progress through habit change and with addictive behavior, you want to let go of your past, forgive yourself, and for your mental health, and to find this place of equanimity about bad habits and addictive behavior. You want to just try and fire and wire in your brain that you are not the person that needs those things or wants those things. And once you can get to that place of not identifying with your past self, then you can put a line in the sand, as I say, and act from a place of, yes, there may be these thoughts and feelings, but I don't act on them. I don't act on them anymore. And over time, they'll start to pass away and fade away. And every once in a while, you may be like, oh, I really fancy a sweet treat right now, or I really fancy a cigarette. And you can just have that conversation with yourself where, well, why would I want that? Because I don't do that. That's not what I am. That's not what I do. And again, it links back to that beautiful Viktor Frankl quote where your last freedom in life is to choose your attitude. You can always make that decision to choose who you want to be and how you want to act. And in relation to addiction, I've had this problem before. In the past, you feel that that's part of you, or that's integral to who you are or how you behave in the world, and it doesn't have to be that way. But you have to make that decision to change your identity, which is linked to your habits. And yeah, that's all for this one. I'll be doing a much deeper dive into Atomic Habits. I'd like to do a little book review on it, and hopefully one day speak to James in person, because it's a truly fantastic book that has changed the lives of so many people. It's so concise, so beautifully written, so accessible. And I think for addiction, for negative habits in general, it's the perfect antidote, along with something like mindfulness, to give yourself that space and then all the tools you need to implement it, good habits or bad habits. So it's been an absolute honor making these videos. I'll be doing a couple more on addiction. And until next time, take care, my friends.